I would like to share with you some insights over the years that I collected about how to collaborate successfully with companies, with firms, with top managers, managers at different managerial layers from a lot of industries. And I guess some of this experience will be quite helpful for you to establish similar relationships with firms. As you know, there's a strong interest both in science and in practice that we conduct rigorous and relevant research. And as you also know, relevance is important, still not enough if you want to successfully publish in leading journals, but relevance is definitely important. And how do we find relevant topics? How do we develop research that is relevant to academia and practice by being in touch with companies and getting their support, data, sometimes also financial support. I would actually like to talk a little bit about the process and about barriers, but also enablers that will help you to develop relationships and also to hopefully successfully publish your research. And I thought of it like a 4-stage or 4-phase process similar to a new product development process. And as you know, in the beginning is the initiation, more or less how to get started, how to also convince managers, top managers of the relevance of what you have in mind and how it might also help them. So in a way, you're becoming like a salesperson. And as you know, I mean, salespeople usually are convincing people. So you have to be convinced of your own endeavor, your own task or project. But what you have to have in mind is success or performance in the mind of an academic researcher is different from business success. So you have to understand like your customer or your supplier, because the firm is that, right? Supplying you with something, but also being your customer later when you have results. So think of how is success defined for a manager, and typically it is, well, this person wants to get promoted, wants to have prestigious kind of results to be shared with other managers, to look good. And they also want to be fast because decisions have to be made at quite high speed. And then compare that to our academic world and you figure out our success is different. Publish, not perish. We have time. I know we are under time pressure, but still you actually have quite some time to develop your models or analyze data and come up with results. Knowing that practitioners are under high time pressure leads to one of the, let's call it success factors. You have to understand that managers have to be fast, and you have to have that in your mind and in your planning to be very flexible when you want to collaborate with firms. It is actually their schedule that counts and not your schedule. And you have to have some flexibility. Sometimes it takes a long time to build trust and also really get to an agreement. But as soon as like these practitioners like what you told them, you should better get started and also sometimes push other stuff aside. So this is one thing. And try to also provide them with maybe not the perfect final outcome that is ready to be submitted for Marketing Science or a different journal, but with an outcome that is maybe just like halfway there. It gives you maybe some model-free evidence, some significant differences, some first heuristics or stuff that will be valued by a manager. That should be your first outcome. And then, again, also be fast and publish it. But you have to understand to collaborate with firms means this collaboration is like the number one priority for a while. You have to build trust with decision makers. And then the question that you as young scholars ask, and this is a good question, how can I actually establish such relationships? Establishing relationships with firms takes time. A good source actually where to start is why don't you look at executive programs, executive MBA programs that your school might be running? Look at the alumni that you have. Maybe there's an annual alumni get-together. Get in touch with people there. You might also have your own network. And what else can work is also try to collaborate with associations such as MSI, or there are some like industry associations in the advertising, retailing, direct selling domain, you name it. They can actually be helpful, and they can help you to connect with decision makers. And another source actually that I figured out over the years is quite helpful is look at, do they have a doctoral degree? Because some of the top managers, at least in Europe, might have kind of a PhD in economics and business, did not stay in academia, but they know about, or how about it is to do research. Well, there are other stages, as you know. One is to further develop the project. Then if you have first initiated a connection and created interest, and then there's an agreement that people want to collaborate. Actually, then you should understand you have to be team players. So you have to get along with managers and other people that are part of this team for the project. Try to understand them. They have sometimes different technical terms. I use the term language here. I know it's not language like French, German, English, but there are like internal acronyms that are used, and try to grab as much of that as possible very soon to be on one level with them. And also try to explain, reveal why you actually spend more time on something that they have less interest in. It just kind of helps them to understand why we as academics spend so much time on details, for example. What I figured out is very important is also be good friends with IT people, because they usually are gatekeepers when it comes to data. And they also could be some group of people that might even sabotage your work. That leads me to another kind of important success factor, having connections to at least middle management or top management of that firm that you collaborate with. Why is it important? You don't want to overspend their time, because there's many demands on their time as well. But whenever there's an issue, you just cannot move forward. You need additional data, maybe some budget or support by people somewhere in the organization. Well, if you call the CEO or a middle manager, this person can then kind of use some of their influence to move your projects forward. In the implementation stage, which is like the third one that I had in mind, this is frequently where we kind of stop. There's not too much of an incentive there usually for us to spend much time in implementing maybe great work. So you might have conducted an empirical study with some findings, but applying them, for example, for new training measures, if it's a sales organization, different advertising campaigns, right, that you have detected in your empirical analyses or modeling efforts, and get them tested. This is becoming more interesting for journals, but still, I would like to see more kind of support there. But still, forget about that, because there are actually some, for example, competitions such as the practice prize that ISMS, MSI started some 20 years ago. And it still happens, so to say, every other year. And that's a very great kind of experience to submit your work there. There's some barriers that you have to overcome. And just to give you one good idea, there's one article that I found very interesting. It's a summary of like the first 10, 12 years of experience from the practice prize, and very kind of well-known scholars, Gary Lillian, John Roberts, and Venki Shankar, published that paper in Marketing Science in 2013. dealing with like the barriers and kind of enablers, drivers of success in these applied, relevant implementations of marketing science models. And look at their framework. It's a very good kind of overview for what really counts. And I must say, when I read that article, there was much of an overlap with my own kind of view and experience. What I would like to kind of finish with is simply key learnings, like these golden nuggets of insights. So if you want to be successful in collaborating with firms, it is an investment, and you have to be aware of that. It takes time. And as we know, first paper is a sprint, your career is a marathon. So you should really kind of emphasize first maybe different kind of projects. But you should also start in the very beginning already to establish relationships with firms if you have an interest in doing applied, relevant, and rigorous research. Then join forces, maybe with other academics who have this background, with associations such as MSI or ISBM. Success factor number 3 is you should have support by top managers, at least middle managers of a company, and maybe getting access to these could happen via alumni networks, executive education participants, and maybe industry organizations. And what is also important, do not forget that maybe this one person that is your major supporter, your promoter, might have a relatively short lifetime in that organization. So this person might be gone in a year from now, and you're in the middle of your research project. So always build a second and third relationship with other people. And don't believe that just looking and watching like what the CEO is doing and saying is enough. You should also have good connections and good relationships with other people, like lower layers of the hierarchy. They will be very helpful in implementing your work, but also in helping out when like your top connection is gone. This is what I would like to share with you. Thank you.